Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, the start of Steelers mandatory minicamp in Pittsburgh. And yes, a certain four-time NFL MVP had his first practice with the black and gold. We will be talking a lot about Aaron Rodgers and his first practice with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had a lot to say in his post-practice press conference as well that we'll get into on today's program. But we'll also talk about some other things that are pressing in Steelers Nation. TJ Watt not present at minicamp. We're going to talk a little bit about Derrick Harmon and some other things on today's show. But make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we're going to give you guys extensive mandatory minicamp coverage all throughout the week. Also, Rodgers said that he is going to be bringing in some of his teammates to Malibu to do a couple throwing sessions. So we'll keep you guys updated on everything leading up to Steelers training camp in Latrobe. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button because the Steelers still want to add another wide receiver. We have daily or weekly live shows, I should say, and daily Steelers videos for you guys to enjoy 100% free on this channel. So if you don't want to miss anything in the Aaron Rodgers saga and era here in Pittsburgh, make sure you click that subscribe button and join our family today. So the story of today actually starts yesterday as Aaron Rodgers joined many of his new Steelers teammates at Cam Hayward's charity golf event. He golfed with DK Metcalf. They were riding around in the golf cart together, took a nice picture, also took a picture with all the different Steelers players and former Steelers players that were at the event yesterday. So it was nice to see Rodgers introduce himself to some of his Steelers teammates and, start bonding a little bit with some of the people he's going to be sharing the field with this season. And then today he showed up to UPMC training facility in Pittsburgh to practice with his new teammates. He apparently addressed the team in the team meeting today, saying that he is now all in and ready to go try and win a 7th Lombardi trophy for this beloved franchise. And then after practice, he did talk with the media. He had a pretty extensive press conference, and he explained a lot of different things here. And, I did come away with quite a few takeaways from the practice and from the press conference itself. He had a lot of very interesting answers to a lot of different things. So let's start with my first takeaway here, which has to do with practice. And he didn't take any team reps today. Now, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, he actually didn't get Arthur Smith's playbook during this kind of time period where the Steelers were kind of in limbo and didn't know if he was going to sign or not. He is now learning the playbook, and Mike Tomlin didn't want him to get into the team periods until he really figures out the playbook heading into training camp. I wouldn't expect him to take any team reps tomorrow either. Then we get to the press conference where Rodgers explained why he took so long to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, if you were willing to listen to him during this offseason, I think, you would have already known this answer. And if you would have watched this channel during the offseason and during the Rodgers saga, you would know the answer to this question. But this is what Rodgers had to say. I was dealing with a lot of things in my personal life, and some things improved a little bit where I felt like I could fully be all in here with the guys. I had great conversation with Mike Tomlin throughout the process and Omar, but it's good to have that done. He also continues here saying, I didn't want to shortchange the guys and be signed, but be elsewhere mentally or physically. So until I could be here and be all in, I had to take care of my business. Now, Rodgers did disclose on the Joe Rogan Experience that he has some people in his life, multiple people that are close to him in his life that are going through cancer right now, and apparently their situations got to a point where he felt comfortable signing on with the Pittsburgh Steelers here before the start of mandatory minicamp. So it seems like everything is going in a positive direction in his personal life. So now he was ready to sign on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for somebody that's been in this league for this long, him missing a couple of OTAs is no skin off my back as far as I'm concerned. Then we get to the reason why Aaron Rodgers decided to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers and why he was so interested in joining the black and gold. And essentially his answer was Mike Tomlin. Rodgers said, I think it starts with Mike Tomlin. I've been a fan of his for a long time. There's a few iconic franchises in the NFL. I played for one of them. For 18 years in Green Bay. This is another one of those. A big attraction was Mike Tomlin. I've gone against him over the years. The way that the conversations went between him and I between March and April, and the last Sunday when I called him, was some of the coolest conversations I've had in the game, especially with a head coach. He's a big reason why I'm here. I believe in him, and I'm excited to play for him. There was conversations with other organizations for sure, but again, the rapport that fell in between me and Mike made it to where I was as I was going through my personal stuff, there wasn't any other option for me. It was here or not play. So essentially, he was saying, listen, man, I wanted to come to Pittsburgh. I just needed to take care of some of my personal business. And Mike Tomlin and the Steelers organization was absolutely on the same page with him from the word go. That's why they didn't really, get uncomfortable at any point during this situation. They didn't go off their guy. They targeted Rodgers from the first day of NFL free agency when it became clear Justin Fields was going to sign with the New York Jets, and they stayed on that plan and didn't waver from that because they had a pretty darn good feeling Rodgers would end up eventually signing on, and now he's officially here. Then might be a little bit of an issue here with his new helmet. As we talked about on yesterday's show, Rodgers has to find a new helmet to play with this year because his former helmet, the Schutt XP Air Pro, is no longer in circulation in the National Football League. So he's still wearing a Schutt. He is now wearing the Schutt F7 Pro. This is the picture of what it looks like. Other NFL quarterbacks such as Drake May and Andy Dalton wear this helmet, and Rodgers has said that if he's going to wear a helmet, as long as he's still playing, he would prefer to wear a Schutt, so that's why he is wearing this helmet model. But apparently, he's not liking it too much here, and it's definitely going to take some getting used to here. Rodgers said, I can't stand the helmet. I've worn a Schutt for 20 years, and somehow, finally, it didn't pass the safety standards. And then somebody asked him if he's going to try out a new helmet or if he's going to find a helmet that works for him, and he said, shit, I hope so. So hopefully Rodgers finds a helmet, whether it is the Schutt and he gets more used to it or he finds a different helmet that works for him. Hopefully he can find something that he feels comfortable with as the offseason goes on and as we get into training camp. And then we get into something else that's a really good sign here when it comes to Rodgers. And this was something that was a concern of a lot of people, whether or not he would embrace a mentor role for sixth-round rookie quarterback Will Howard. And he really made a point of it today to say, hey, I am here to help Will in any way that I can. This is what Rodgers said during his press conference. Will's a good kid. We've got to talk a little bit. I thought he did really well today. He seems pretty bright, not too big for him, going through the progressions really well. I'm going to be with him every single day and every single meeting. Found my seat next to him today in the offensive meeting, whether or not that sticks, right next to Will Howard. I'm going to help him out as much as I can. So that's obviously something you want to see from the 41-year-old helping out the sixth-round rookie. Another thing that I'm taking away here from the press conference is that he is still learning the offense and still working with Arthur Smith to develop a plan. They have had extensive conversations on the phone and via FaceTime, and, of course, during his visit to Pittsburgh 70 days ago at this point. It seems like time has just flown on since then, but he is, learning a little bit more of the Arthur Smith terminology that's a little bit more unique to the Matt LaFleur offense. And, of course, the Nathaniel Hackett offense. Both of those offenses are West Coast systems. That's what Arthur Smith runs here in Pittsburgh. So he talked about today how there's a lot of the terminology that's the same. So he should be able to pick up the playbook pretty quickly. But he did say there's some things he still needs to pick up. Another thing here that's going to be good news here for Steelers fans. If you were worried about him missing time with his receivers and all that stuff during OTAs, he's going to make up for it pretty much by bringing out Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, all his weapons. He says that they are planning a trip to get them out to Malibu, which he said was definitely going to be difficult to do, but I think he was being sarcastic about that. Malibu is absolutely beautiful, but it does seem like the Steelers' offense is going to be gelling during the break between mandatory minicamp and training camp in Latrobe. And then he also confirmed that he's married. We've been speculating about that for a couple months now, where he's been seen out in public with a wedding ring on. Somebody asked him if it was an Aura ring. I think it was Brooke Pryor from ESPN that asked him that. He said, no, it's a wedding ring. So we did see that today when he was practicing. He's wearing that little rubber black band that he's been wearing for the last several weeks. And he said he's been married for a couple months now. So, of course, in classic Aaron Rodgers fashion, he didn't tell anybody about it. Then we get to my overall takeaway from his press conference. He just seems to be at peace with where he is at in his NFL journey. And he was asked why he didn't retire and why he came back. And Rodgers made it abundantly clear. He doesn't feel like he needs to come back or that there's anything else he needs to do in his NFL career. He's coming back because he loves football and he wants to play football. And he still feels like he can play this game at a very high level. And it just seems like he's very at peace with where he is in his NFL journey, his football journey. And he genuinely is coming back because he loves it and doesn't feel like he has anything left to prove. And then I think that my final takeaway here from today's practice when it comes to Rodgers is I loved Mike Tomlin's answer as to why he wanted to bring in the 4-time NFL MVP. This is what Coach T had to say about bringing in Rodgers. He was asked directly, why did you want to bring him in? He said, read his resume. We're excited about him being here. He's excited about being here. But we'll make no bold predictions. We're just going to roll up our sleeves and go to work and let our efforts do the talking. And, Mike Tomlin is certainly the type of guy that's not going to let the hype get to this football team. He is not going to allow this locker room and these players to sniff their own farts, all right? They're not going to be saying, oh, we got Aaron Rodgers, we're definitely going to be winning the Super Bowl. Like, they are going to be working and they're going to be grinding every single day because Mike Tomlin is going to demand the best out of these players like he does each and every season. And I honestly think Coach Tomlin is the perfect head coach for an Aaron Rodgers-led team. If you're bringing in a 4-time NFL MVP, a top 10 quarterback in NFL history, obviously there's going to be a lot of hype surrounding this football team. You need a head coach that's going to be able to rally the troops and somebody that's going to be able to corral the minds of the players in that locker room to be able to focus on their jobs every single day and not buy into the hype. And Mike Tomlin is exactly that type of guy, which is probably one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers and his conversations with Coach T went so well, because he feels like he is the perfect head coach for him. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, we got other day one minicamp storylines. I went through all the Rodgers stuff. Then we'll talk about T.J. Watt not showing up. We got a couple things about Derrick Harmon as well that we'll talk about later in today's show. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And if you guys want a new Aaron Rodgers jersey, they are now available on the Fanatics website when you use our link, chatsports.com/AR8. You guys can pick up the 8-ball jersey here by going to chatsports.com/AR8. Mine is already on its way. I am very, very excited about this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers being a member of this football team. If you're with me on that and you want to get a Rodgers jersey, go to chatsports.com/AR8. So the drama surrounding T.J. Watt continues here as, we kind of expected this because there was no deal done. It seems like Watt is not very happy with the way contract negotiations are going between him and the Steelers, and he is now not expected to attend any of the days of mandatory minicamp. Of course, the Steelers will be in minicamp these next 3 days. He was not there today, and he's not expected to show up the other 2 days either. But I'm not worried about this whatsoever, guys. T.J. Watt is one of the best players on the planet. And, this is certainly something where, that we've seen this before when Watt was trying to get his contract extended back in 2021. And he went out there and played a fantastic season, as we'll see here in just a second. But obviously, Watt is unhappy with the way the Steelers are approaching this whole situation. If he felt better about it, he probably would be at mandatory minicamp. But he's sending a message here to Pittsburgh where it's like, the amount of money that you have offered me is not enough. You have to come to the table and you need to pay me what I want. Also, another contributing factor to this is that TJ and his wife just recently had a baby, and I don't think that he wants to go to Pittsburgh and spend the week there, especially with the contract situation being what it is, instead of being with his family and being with his new child. And then also, like a player like TJ Watt, let's just be completely honest, it's the same argument with Aaron Rodgers if he would have missed mandatory minicamp. He doesn't necessarily need to be there. He is an awesome player. And remember, the last time TJ Watt skipped out on a mandatory minicamp, he had a career season with 22.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 21 TFLs, one of the greatest, if not the greatest season we have ever seen from an edge rusher in NFL history. So I'm not necessarily saying that him being at mandatory minicamp is a good thing or that he plays better when he doesn't go to mandatory minicamp. That's not the argument I'm making. The argument I'm making is that he is a dynamic playmaking presence for your defense, whether he shows up to mandatory minicamp or not. And the reality of the situation here, guys, is that this is probably going to drag on a little while. The Steelers probably don't want to pay TJ his asking price, which is probably upwards of $40 million per season. But the Steelers understand that they need Watt in order to compete for a Super Bowl, which is their goal with Aaron Rodgers this year, and therefore they need to pay him, and they need to pay him what he wants. And Watt knows that. He knows he has the leverage, and he's not budging. So I do expect the Steelers to eventually budge on their number and pay up, but it probably won't be for a little while. I do think Pittsburgh probably wants to get another wide receiver and kind of get that situation figured out before addressing the Watt contract. I think they want to know exactly what they're dealing with. not only this year, but potentially future seasons at the wide receiver position in terms of the cap space that they have, all that different stuff, before they officially finalize the TJ Watt contract here in Pittsburgh. If you're looking for the top wide receiver targets, these are the guys that I think are more realistic and guys that I think could actually be traded. Now, Terry McLaurin is another name that's being thrown out there. I don't think he's overly realistic, but Romeo Doubs from the Green Bay Packers I think is the most likely trade candidate, and then Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen are two free agents that I think fit what Aaron Rodgers likes and big body route runners that I think would be really good fits with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2025 season. Some other notable holdouts along with TJ Watt in the NFL, Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders. There's a lot of Steelers fans that want the Steelers to trade for McLaurin. I hate to break it to those fans, but the Commanders want to win too. They're in Super Bowl mode as well with Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract. They're not going to give away his number one wide receiver. Then Jonnu Smith of the Dolphins. The Steelers have been in communication with the Dolphins about a potential trade for Jonnu. He did not show up to mandatory minicamp in Miami, so keep that in mind. And then Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals. Hopefully they trade his ass away out of the AFC North so the Bengals defense can get even worse than it already is. Then our final story today, we're going to talk about a first-round pick out of Oregon for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, Derrick Harmon, who today, Carl Dunbar, the defensive line coach, confirmed that Harmon will start this year as their starting defensive end in their five-man front. So if you don't know, the Steelers run a five-man front when they're in their base formations. They have two outside linebackers, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. They have one true defensive tackle at three technique with Cam Hayward. Their nose tackle is Keanu Benton, and Derrick Harmon is going to be slotting in as that 3-4 defensive end to start his NFL career, which is obviously good news. It shows that, the Steelers feel like, they got, what they thought they were paying for with that first-round pick in Harmon, and they expect him to be a disruptive force when they do decide to go to those base formations. But I do want to kind of pump the brakes a little bit here because the Steelers do play heavy majority nickel like every other defense in the National Football League does. And when they're in nickel, there's only 4 down linemen. And I do expect Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward to be the 2 primary snap getters when you're in your 4-man front. But that doesn't mean Harmon won't rotate in and get significant snaps. I think he will. And he's going to be a big-time help for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year and keep Benton and Hayward fresh throughout the season. But, even though he's technically being designated as a starter in this defense, I do think that it's more of a rotational role, even though the starter designation has already been placed at his feet. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. How many sacks will rookie Derrick Harmon have in year one? I think he might float around 5. He is a very disruptive player, and if he can stay on the field, even in a rotational role, I think that he can do some really, really good stuff for the Steelers defensive line. So that'll be it for me today, guys. Today was day 1 of mandatory minicamp, but we still got day 2 and day 3 to come. More stuff from Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, all this different stuff coming up later in the week. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.